now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. A New York man was sentenced to 60 years in prison for participating in sex trafficking at Sarah Lawrence College. Larry Ray, who was born Lawrence Greco, was found guilty in April of sex trafficking and racketeering as related to the psychological, physical, and emotional abuse of his daughter's roommates at Sarah Lawrence College. Now, it's alleged that Larry Ray moved into a one-bedroom apartment which was being shared by his daughter and several roommates at Sarah Lawrence College, and as he was there, he pretended to allegedly be a father figure and had these so-called therapy sessions where he got each of his victims to reveal intimate details about their lives and then use this to manipulate these young kids and lead to them participating in deviant sex acts, and coerced several of the individuals there to participate in prostitution. In addition to leading and coercing these children into participating in sex acts and prostitution, it is alleged that Larry Ray also went out and had many of these young kids doing slave labor on his property in North Carolina. Now, the federal government sees Larry Ray's behavior as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of Larry Ray's alleged behavior, it fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And when it comes down to many beta males like Larry Ray, many of these males they live in a place I call the secret world, and in that place called the secret world is the place where they feel safe about participating in their supposedly naturally masculine behaviors, but because these males are very disturbed, the masculine behaviors they participate in are all twisted because many of these males live in a rose-colored reality, and that's basically where Larry Ray was living. He was living in a rose-colored reality where he believed he was some sort of father figure to his daughter, but it's clear to me that he really was, again, a depraved individual, because a true father understands where boundaries are, because a father, when he sees his daughter going to college, he doesn't move in with his daughter and her roommates. No, what he does is cut the apron strings and lets his daughter grow up and take responsibility for herself. But when you have a beta male like a Larry Ray, it's all about them having power, because many of these males feel powerless in and of themselves, and because they feel powerless in and of themselves, they want to go out here and get power over others, and that's what he was doing as he was out here participating in his emotional abuse and psychological manipulation of his daughter's roommates. So in many cases, when it comes down to these beta males, they will go out here and look to be a leader that they couldn't be in real life. And that's why your Larry Ray, I believe, as alleged, cast himself as this father figure, and he went and moved into this apartment. Now, any other group of men and women, if they saw a guy doing this, they would set boundaries with that individual and let them know that this is our residence, this is our home, and you are not invited to stay in our home. This is not, your name is not on the lease, and they would let him know where the line is. Unfortunately, because these were just 18, 19-year-old kids, they didn't know about the concept of setting boundaries, and because they didn't know how to set boundaries, Larry Ray turned that one-bedroom apartment into a house of horrors. And as he went and turned it into a house of horrors, he used his position of authority as an older adult as a way to go out here and get information on these kids. And as the kids revealed these intimate details about their lives, what he did was what many beta males do, is they go out and use their information against them. And in many cases, what many beta males like to do is tell people that they're broken and they need fixing. But the irony is they are the ones that need fixing because they are the ones who are broken. Now, your beta male, he will try to take your information and tell you he has the solution. And I go in depth on this in my ebook, Manginas. They look like men, but they act like ladies. And what they do is as they're getting your information and using it against you and giving you their solution is usually to abuse you so that they can get more power over you. And in many cases, what they do is they try to manipulate you into doing things that they want you to do. This is what your mangina is notorious for. And many of these manginas, these beta males, when they get people under their control, that's when they start to explore ways to get more power over them. And one of the ways many of these beta males love to go out here and exploit people with power is through sex. Now, your beta male, when he goes out and he gets power over people, he likes to use sex as a way to abuse people, because by taking one of the most intimate acts that men and women can have, he uses this to gain a way to control someone. And he also uses it to go out here and humiliate people, because he uses his body as a weapon. And this is what they do inside of the secret world. Many of these males, they use their bodies as weapons, and they also get people so broken down that they are out here participating in sex acts under their command. And they do this because they want to please this person who has just psychologically broken down a person to the point where they feel like they have no agency or power over themselves. And they do things to try to please this person because their relationship has become a codependent relationship to the point where they depend on this person's approval for everything. And this is the type of stuff that your beta male manginas love to do. They love having power over people because they feel extremely insecure and inadequate about themselves. And because they feel extremely insecure and inadequate about themselves, they get pleasure from breaking people down and humiliating people. And that's exactly what is alleged Larry Ray did, as he had 3 of the female victims, again, working on his property as slaves, also was out here sexually abusing them, and also had one victim where he made allegations that she had taken things from him or destroyed his property, and said that she needed to be a prostitute. I mean, this man broke all of these young women down, and even broke a young man down to the point where he wanted to commit suicide. And he used physical, emotional, and sexual abuse to break all of these young children down. And he broke them down to the point where he had a young man forced to wear a diaper and suck on a pacifier. I mean, this man was, if these allegations were true and proven in court, he is a true monster. But this is the kind of monster that your beta male is. Your beta male is an extreme monster because he's all about having power, and he wants to have power because in many cases your beta male doesn't really have much control over his life. And your Larry Ray really didn't have much power over himself because he was one of these guys who was an FBI informant. He was also involved with other different fraud cases, and was in trouble as related to many things. So he was a guy, he had no real power. He was in a lot of elite social circles, but he was somebody who didn't have power. And he got power by going to his daughter's apartment
and he got power by dominating and controlling her roommates and humiliating them because he had felt powerless because he had already allegedly had been out here in these elite circles, and he also was alleged to have participated in money laundering. So he was looking at already in a place where he was already in trouble. But this guy, because he felt powerless, he felt like, oh, I'm going to get my power by breaking down my daughter's roommates. I'm going to get my power by dominating her roommates and her friends, and I'm going to turn them all into my personal slaves. I mean, his cult-like behavior really reminds me of a plantation slave master, because the plantation slave master, he would participate in the same kind of psychological tactics in order to break down black slaves, in order to get power over them. He would participate in this kind of torture, and that is what many are alleged by Larry Ray participated in. And this was also shown in a video in federal court where he had gone out here and even brainwashed one of his accomplices to go again participate in helping him with these things. But this man basically was a complete monster. I mean, he basically took some of our best and brightest kids, a Harvard graduate. He had her participating in sexual relations with strangers in Walmart and Home Depot and tried to coerce her into being a prostitute. And he took another graduate at Sarah Lawrence and turned her into a prostitute. That's the kind of dangers that these beta males are. And again, when it comes down to the beta male, the depravity that he participates in goes to these kinds of extremes, and it just shows how sick these individuals are. Now, what I find to be interesting is how the mainstream media basically has covered up this story of this sexually deviant beta male, and I find it interesting how they would wind up covering up this story, and it hasn't come out until now. I find it interesting that the mainstream media did not cover this story and report on it with the frequency that they did as related to many other black people like Bill Cosby and many black men who have had to deal with allegations as related to the Me Too movement. I mean, you would think the feminists and the members of the Me Too movement would be talking about Larry Ray, because Larry Ray, like Harvey Weinstein, is somebody who has participated in extreme acts of sexual deviancy, has gone out here and sexually assaulted several young girls. But we don't hear any of the feminists or members of the Me Too movement or any of the people who support these organizations like Gloria Allred and Lisa Bloom talking about Larry Ray. I mean, Larry Ray basically is a monster now that he's been convicted. And if this is the case, again, you would think white women would actively be going out here and talking about this man and using him as a poster child to represent what type of individual needs to be punished as related to allegations of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse. But when it comes to white males, I'm noticing a pattern with people like the Me Too movement, white feminists, and lawyers like Gloria Allred and Lisa Bloom. You never see them go out and actively call out sick white males like Larry Ray. No, they're quick to go out here and talk about Bill Cosby, but they won't say a thing about Larry Ray, a sexual deviant who participated in this sexual abuse of these students at Sarah Lawrence College right in front of his own daughter. And that just shows how sick and depraved this individual is. But this individual, the mainstream media doesn't give him any press. The mainstream media doesn't call him out. I mean, this guy basically got a pass, and it's quite troubling because it shows how a sick white male like this can get a pass. Moreover, you've got many white people going out here giving him sympathy, and that's what he got as related to this sentence. because prosecutors wanted to give this beta male life in prison, which is what I believe he deserves, but he only got 60 years in prison, and they were looking for find a ways to sympathize with him. And again, that's quite troubling because this is a man who deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life for the psychological, physical, and sexual abuse that destroyed these young children and gave them trauma for their lives. Yes, I'm calling them children because at 18, 19, 20 years old, these kids really don't know anything about life. And this monster, this parasite, leached into his life, but they still look to give him some sort of sympathy. Whereas if your Larry Ray was a black man, they would have possibly thrown the book at Larry Ray, thrown him into prison for the rest of his life. But that just shows how deep white privilege goes, that a sexual deviant and a psychopath could get a 60-year sentence. And people were sitting there saying, oh, we feel sorry for him because his mother and his father and his stepfather wound up dying. But the whole thing is that he needs to be held accountable because he truly is a monster. And he's a monster who shows me how sick these beta males can be. And again, when it comes to the beta male, he is one of the sickest of the sick. He is one of the most depraved of the depraved. And when I look at the behavior of that Larry Ray was convicted of participating in, he definitely belongs in prison for the rest of his life. And he deserves to be turned out by Bubba and Tiny because he would be reaping what he sowed, as Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, and Big Dave traded him for Little Debbie snack cakes, Raymond noodles, Kit Kat candy bars, Taster's Choice coffee, packets of Crystal Light, Kool-Aid, and other assorted things in commissary like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies and six-pack Oreo cookies, because while your Larry Ray was a big, bad, tough guy with these college kids, I wonder how tough he's going to be when he's inside of the penitentiary with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, and Big Dave as they're spit roasting his old ass and turning him out like the poor girls he turned out and coerced into prostitution. Because when I look at Larry Ray, again, he wants us to sympathize for him, but he had no empathy or compassion for those young girls. And that young man, he broke down. He had no love or compassion for those kids. No, as he was there, he wanted to break down those children so that he could have power. And now that he's in prison, he wants us to believe that he's a victim. But this is the way many beta males are. And these beta males are, again, they are a piece of work. And again, when I look at Larry Ray's case, it definitely fits that pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in The Man Crisis. And he also definitely fits that pattern and profile as related to the sociopathic behavior that I talk about in my book, Manginas. They look like men, but they act like ladies. And your Larry Ray basically is a bitch, just like he is. And again, this is the type of sick behavior these guys participate in. But again, I look at this male, and again, I find it very troubling that you have a male participating in this type of cult-like behavior, similar to that of the Nixium cult, and similar to that of what people say Jeffrey Epstein participated in, but he gets no media coverage, and this man is not plastered all over as the face of sexual violence. He's not shown to be the monster he truly is. No, I find that to be more troubling than his crimes, because this really shows how America is still in denial about the man crisis in this country, because this man was a ticking time bomb. And what was really scary is that he not only exploded in his rage at his daughter's school, he did this in front of his daughter and participated in this sick behavior, and sadly nobody blinked an eye as related to how depraved this individual actually was. Now, if you want to learn more about what leads to individuals becoming dysfunctional like this, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more men's issues videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback and e-readers everywhere at online booksellers today.